Okay, let's start with group number one. So, group number two, kayo magtatanong ng question, ah. Okay? Let's start with group number one, Abrogar, Bernardo, and Macabenta. Just allow you to share the screen.
Doc, sino po ulit yung group 1, Doc?
Kayo, Abrogar,
Okay po.
Bernardo, tsaka Macabenta.
Pwede na po ba mag-share screen, Doc?
Yes.
Tagal.
Sir,
Hmm.
sir, sino po yung group 2?
Group two, Asena, Castro,
Ay, sige po.
Malinis,
Group,
Ordonez. Group 3 kayo.
sige po. Okay.
Kaya ulit tawagan si Reyes kung makaka-join siya. Masisiro siya sa kamo sa oral presentation.
Sige po.
Okay. Okay, group 1, you can start whenever you are ready.
Okay, so good morning everyone. Our group will be presenting a comparative analysis of the logistics systems of IKEA and Eurotexport. Today we will discuss our assessment of their logistics systems, challenges, and innovations with a focus on how their scale and geography shape their operations. Next slide, please. On the global logistics areas to be addressed, starting with the fragmented regulations. As a global organization, IKEA operates in over 50 countries, which means it faces diverse international and domestic regulatory challenges. To address this, IKEA shifted from a regional to a centralized global planning model. This allows the company to standardize operations and handle complex international trade requirements. IKEA enforces compliance through its highway audits with more than 1,600 direct suppliers, ensuring that not only legal compliance but also adherence to social and environmental standards. So looking ahead, IKEA is preparing for a stricter regulations by pledging to fully transition to zero emission trucks and vessels by 2040. On the other hand, Eurotex Foam, a domestic company in the Philippines, experiences logistical challenges tied to fragmented local regulations, unstable road conditions, and archipelagic geography. Its operations are still largely manual, which leads to compliance and operational inefficiencies. To address this, Eurotex is investing in automation and aligning with the new Extended Producer Responsibility Act through waste management strategies and foam recycling. So in short, IKEA strategies are more global, centralized, and forward-looking, while Eurotech solutions are locally focused, adaptive, and tailored to Philippine realities.
Now, for another global logistics area that we will address is the multimodal archipelagic distribution complexity, or the archipelago of the Philippines. So we know that the Philippines is made up of more than 7,000 islands. So uh, obviously, it's not efficient to have a single transport mode like roads or rail track. Instead, companies rely on combinations of trucking or roll on, roll off shipping, or most commonly known as the Roro boat, feeder vessels, and also sometimes air freight. These multimodal chains increases the cost. So it also lengthens the lead time and makes the logistics planning very complicated. Now, for IKEA, this presents a challenge because as a global standardized model, it is trained by the local realities of the Philippines. There are customs delay, port congestion, and also, as stated before, the fragmented regulations in the domestic or the local policy. On the other hand, Eurotech, by being a local company, they also face this issue, but they adapt differently. The key difference here is how each firm adjusts to its logistics strategy, whether it's enforcing global standards or by local situations. Now, IKEA's global approach is firstly, it relies on its flat pack design. which makes it efficient and scalable worldwide. However, when in the Philippines, their standardized and automated processes has a strain because, as I stated, customs procedures and also a weak infrastructure adds on to the delay. And also the e-commerce deliveries are slow in specifically Metro Manila because of traffic and poor inter-island connectivity to provinces. So essentially, IKEA's challenge is adapting a global model to the local layout. Eurotex, on the other hand, faces a different problem. Its main product, the foam mattresses, are bulky but lightweight, which makes transportation costly and reduces the cargo profitability. So, with this, the Eurotex uses decentralized distribution centers to expand inter-island coverage. They also employ grassroots solutions such as sending community-based peddlers to reach remote areas where traditional logistics providers fit unprofitable. And also, their e-commerce operations are supported by localized delivery networks. So, in short, Eurotex they show flexibility and they tailored strategies that fit in the Philippine context that also complements their product and market context. Next, please.
So I will compare the IKEA global multinational and Eurotex Foam domestic Philippine company with areas focusing in regulatory compliance approaches, archipelagic distribution challenges mentioned by Naomi, and e-commerce and last mile solutions pertaining logistics. So let's begin. For the regulatory compliance approaches, uh, IKEA made highway audits of 1,600 suppliers, while Eurotex local adaptation have domestic Philippine operations. In the regulatory compliance approaches, the company of your IKEA doesn't just react to regulations, they proactively influence future environmental policies, as evidenced by their commitment to achieve zero by 2040. Sorry. Eurotex Foam, on the other hand, faces a completely different set of challenges. As a domestic Philippine company, they operate with largely manual processes that actually create compliance difficulties. Unlike the IKEA, since it's a global company. For example, Eurotex, they're implementing waste management strategies specifically for Philippines' new Extended Producer Responsibility Act, or EPR as known, which evaluate automation to improve their supply chain accuracy within the local regulatory environment. For the Philippine geography naman, both of them, since meron din IKEA sa Philippines, have struggling with the multimodal transportation. So the Philippines' unique archipelagic with over 7,000 islands requires multimodal transportation, as you can see. The responses, IKEA and Vertex differ markedly based on their operational capabilities. IKEA's globally standardized logistics model actually encounters efficiency disruptions when dealing with Philippine customs, procedures, and domestic transshipment points. While IKEA benefit from their famous flat pack design that optimizes container space, their automated warehouse processes are strained by the Philippines' inconsistent local infrastructure. In Eurotex confronts the same fragmented networks, but they face unique product-specific challenges. For example, home products are bulky and lightweight, so they have to consume large cargo space relative to their economic value, creating significant transportation costs. Kahit na may vacuum na ginagamit, which is implemented na sa mga home mattresses ngayon para mas maliit yung space. Eurotex has developed innovative grassroots solution, including deploying community-based peddlers to serve remote locations. For e-commerce and last mile delivery naman, the rise of e-commerce has intensified last mile delivery challenges for both companies. But again, the responses reveal their different operational philosophies. IKEA's rely on multiple third-party logistic providers for their online store, which is yung nasa website nila, ikea.com. but they face persistent difficulties with Metro Manila's notorious traffic congestion and limited island coverage that compromise delivery efficiency. Their global standardization approach doesn't always adapt well to local delivery challenges. Eurotex takes a different approach. They supplement their e-commerce platform with localized networks specifically designed to reach underserved areas. This flexibility allows them to combine modern retail demands with traditional community-based distribution approaches. So, ano yung strategic approaches na key takeaways? IKEA should adapt global efficiency models to local conditions. Parang ibaba yung level nila para ma-reach yung mga local area na hindi nila kayang i-reach. Unlike ni Eurotex na nare-reach niya to the Visayas and Mindanao. For optimal strategy, siguro combine multinational automation capabilities with local adaptability mechanism. No one size fits all solution in logistics management. Success depends on aligning organizational capabilities with local market conditions and challenges for both companies. Naomi.
Since we've discussed on the specific global logistic challenges, now let's focus on how the logistic system works for each company. Firstly, let's assess IKEA's logistics system. First is in procurement of raw materials. IKEA sources the raw materials like timber, metal, textiles, and plastics from global suppliers such as China, Poland, Italy, Germany, and Sweden. This procurement is digitally managed, but it still requires a manual inspections for like quality assurance and also manual handling of some materials. Second is the transportation to the manufacturing plant. It can be through road, rail, and ocean freight, connecting the suppliers to regional hubs. So, for example, materials from China are shipped to Southeast Asian or European assembly hubs or assembly centers. This stage uses also a digital systems like warehouse management systems and also transport management systems. But it still depends on manual handling at the factories itself. So as stated here, there is also like forklifts or conveyors that still need um, um, a mix of manual and automated. Next, please. The third stage is the international transport to the Philippines. So since the goods arrive mainly through the port of Manila or Batangas. Here, this is the customs clearance where it is often manual, fragmented, and also very time consuming that increases the cost for the logistics planning. Then after the clearance, the goods are trucked to the IKEA Pasay, um, their branch here, and to other warehouses or their designated warehouses. As stated also, their delivery costs reflect on their complexity. So it ranges from 49 pesos for small parcels up to 999 pesos for bulky items like uh, large furniture delivery. Also, there's automated order planning, but as usual, here in the Philippines, it is mostly or still um, there's still abundant manual operations in the clearance and trucking. Then finally is the distribution to the customer. Though there are options in in-store pickup, parcel couriers, truck deliveries, and also white glove assembly services, so like a third party one. They use this multiple options for providing their high quality services. While the ordering systems are also automated, like last mile delivery is labor intensive and constrained by Metro Manila traffic, and there's also poor inter-island link. So overall, IKEA's global logistics model is highly efficient and very sustainable, but fitting it in the Philippine context, as stated before, it faces the regulatory fragmentation or mostly bottlenecks in the clearance or mostly custom in each city or from the port itself, and also the archipelagic complexity or the weak inter-island connectivity or transportation. So to improve this, uh, if we can recommend on investing in the customs integration, on the regional hubs here in the Philippines, and also adding in more or selective automation that are necessary to balance global standards with the local realities here in the Philippines. Next, please.
Okay, so as you can see in the screen, these are the technical capabilities and specification that Eurotex POM acquired over the years. So they started from 1968. So I will not bore you with the uh, numbers. So I will focus on logistics and supply chain that significantly affect and made Eurotex POM as it is now. So this year, 2025, Eurotex Philippines attended Deliver Asia to explore innovative logistic solutions. Uh, According to their employee, they shared their operational challenges and their objectives. So they attend the event because they need it. So the challenges in logistics and hoping they find the solutions in the event of the Deliver Asia. Eurotex faces challenges managing both production and logistics, with the latter experiencing predominantly manual processes, like as I said earlier. So, nagre-result siya ng high manpower requirements is more on manual process. Increased resource need, syempre, mas matagal and costly, mas magastos. Higher operational cost due to inefficiencies. So, what they learn is that exploring automation at Deliver Asia, the company is actively seeking technology to develop more efficient logistics processes, reduce operational expenses, and innovate the Eurotex supply chain. Uh, the Eurotex learned that in the event of Deliver Asia, they have to emphasize the importance of looking beyond daily operations na hindi lang nagpo-focus sa manual processes, focusing on continuous improvement or Kaizen, and exploring available technologies to modernize logistics. So logistics lang, hindi na supply chain kasi I will explain why they already have already good supply chains, good supply chain. Sorry. So in 2009, Eurotex implement SAP IBM. So the challenge, this was Eurotex in 2009 with 11 sites producing thousands of different products. Since di lang naman siya limited sa foam and mattresses. Sales and finances was proving to be a complex challenge for Eurotex. It was common to overproduce to ensure sales orders could be fulfilled. So yun na yung supply chain, nagre-result ng overstock inventories, and there was no link between goods return and refund credits. So making it hard to identify the true profitability of each customer. So I think dito yan sa IBM servers is SAP. So ang solution ni Eurotex, they work with SAP value-added reseller buy-in to implement an SAP business all-in-one solution. Initially at 2 sites muna, hanggang ultimately across the group based on an IBM System X server, IBM System Storage, and IBM DB2. So the benefits, what happened after implementing for a couple of years until now, finished goods inventory has been cut by 90% from 2 months to 5 days, releasing valuable cash to business. Integrated order to cash process ensures production volumes match sales order. So na pinpoint na yung problem, reducing waste and increasing manufacturing efficiency. So credits for returned goods are authorized only when the Eurotex warehouse has accepted safe delivery, improving cash control and helping to identify the true profitability of each customer account. So that's it. Next.
Now comparing the logistic systems of the two companies, for the procurement of materials, IKEA sources materials globally from a wide supplier based in countries like China, Poland, and Sweden. Procurement is managed digitally, but inspections remain manual. While in Eurotex, procurement is integrated with its domestic manufacturing operations. The company invests in advanced technologies such as the quadrofoam machine and uses SAP systems to reduce raw material inventory by 75%. So in short, IKEA's procurement is globally dispersed and digitally managed, while Eurotex is domestic and tightly linked with its factories. And then for manufacturing and production, IKEA's manufacturing relies on its global network of production hubs. An important advantage of this is its logistic is the flat pack design, which minimizes shipping space and costs. On the other hand, Eurotex has invested heavily in building a domestic manufacturing base with 25 factories across the country, including its facility in the Daridel, Bulacan. The company can serve the local market quickly and efficiently. Also, its advanced quadruple machine produces 600 kilograms of foam per minute, enough to make nearly 13,000 mattresses in just 6.5 hours. So IKEA maximizes efficiency by leveraging global hubs and flat pack design, while Eurotex ensures responsiveness and resilience through localized and high-capacity production facilities. For distribution and last mile delivery, for IKEA, distribution into the Philippines begins with containerized shipping to Manila. From there, last mile delivery is managed through couriers and trucks, but costs are uh, costly, ranging from 49 pesos to nearly 1,000 pesos of shipping. While Geotex has built a nationwide distribution network supported by 70 plus trucks and multiple warehouses. To overcome ecological challenges, it uses innovations like roll packing mattresses to save space and its peddler network of 4,000 outlets to reach remote areas. So IKEA's distribution extends its global model, but Eurotex system is highly adaptive, designed to meet the unique challenges of the Philippine market. For digital and technology systems, IKEA manages its global supply chain with advanced systems like warehouse management and transport management software. However, meron pa ring bottlenecks, especially sa customs and local inland tracking, which are outside of its control na. While Eurotex unified its domestic operation, SAP Business All-in-One and created its own manufacturing execution system, the ERGCPS. This investment reduced finished goods inventory by 90%. So in essence, IKEA's digital systems focus on global coordination, while yung Eurotex ang focus sa internal integration and efficiency. So key challenges, IKEA's main challenges in the Philippines are external, custom clearance and geographic complexity, which drive costs and uncertainty. While in Eurotech's main challenges were internal coordination, which it addressed with system integration, role packing technology, and innovation distribution methods. So IKEA struggles with external friction points, while Eurotex innovates against internal and geographic challenges. So in conclusion, this comparison shows how logistic strategies depend heavily on scale and geography. IKEA as a global company uses centralized planning and international systems, but faces challenges adapting to local contexts like here in the Philippines. While Eurotex, as a domestic company, builds its strategies on innovation and integration suited to Philippine conditions. So, both companies demonstrate how logistics is not one size fits all, but is shaped by the environment in which a company operates. That is all for our presentation po. Thank you.
Okay, group 2 for your questions. So each group members need to ask question. So group 2, ayan, sige, okay. Okay, proceed.
Audible po ba ako?
Yes.
So for my question po, do you think IKEA should have their own logistics and distribution system in the Philippines like Eurotex? Or should they just stick to third-party companies for this matter?
Sorry, can you repeat the question?
Okay. So do you think IKEA should have their own logistics and distribution in the Philippines like Eurotex kasi they deliver their own, di ba? Should they just stick to third-party companies for this matter? Like gagamit na lang sila ng other companies to deliver their own goods to the buyers, ganun.
Yes, di naman problema masyado na IKEA. No? Ang problem naman kay IKEA is di lang niya ma-reach yung places na sobrang lalayo. And like, limited lang siya more on Metro Manila. So in your question, I think yes, they should adapt, but they already have a good procedure on how it's done yung kanilang logistics. It's just that they have to adapt on the archipelagic model of the Philippines para makasabay sila and somehow may matutunan sa Eurotex na nag-expand na from Visayas and Mindanao and gawing expansion na rin yung Eurotex sa pan-reading sa Southeast Asia. I hope it answers your question.
Thank you.
Question po. Do you think Eurotex domestic focus limits its adaptability compared to IKEA's global strategy?
I don't think Eurotex domestic focus limits its adaptability. Parang ano lang, it just adapts differently. So then, kasi yung IKEA, parang global strategy. Parang its global strategy give its scale and reach, pero may mga problems pa rin sa customs and diverse regulations. While yung Eurotex naman, na-avoid niya yung mga ganong problem by adjusting its model to local realities lang. So by focusing locally, it develops homegrown solutions like roll packing and decentralized factories. So both are adaptive, pero parang in ways that fit their own context lang.
Okay, thank you.
Hello. Naririnig po ba ako? Am I audible?
Yes po.
Okay po. So, dun po sa IKEA, they rely on third-party contractors po, di ba? And while yung Eurotex, correct me if I'm wrong, but it's localized network supplements. Tama po ba?
Yes, correct.
Okay po. So, I would like to some clarification lang po. Ano po itong mga localized network supplements? Does this refer to local logistics company or parang does it refer to other other things?
No. Yung Eurotex kasi may sarili silang logistics. In our technical report one, sabi namin na meron silang 70 trucks fleet na nag-deliver within Philippines, Luzon, Visayas, and Mindanao. So, no, they don't have third-party na logistics, but they have their own fleet para masatisfied and makater yung needs ng local na Philippines, if that's your question.
Okay. Thank you. Ayun lang naman po. Some clarification.
For the last question, how does Eurotex contribute to the circular economy through foam recycling?
Sorry, pa-repeat daw ng question.
How does Eurotex contribute to the circular economy through foam recycling?
Hello. So for your question, they did not disclose specifically about the foam recycling. However, since they are in the Philippines, they are under the law of New Extended Producer Responsibility Act and are currently evaluating automation to improve their supply chain accuracy within the local regulatory environment. So to answer your question, they did not disclose on how they, after the life cycle of their product, how they recycle it.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, I think that's done for group 1. Good job. And now we'll be proceeding to group 2. Group 3 pa ready na rin ng question nyo. And also your presentation.
Hello, hello po. Okay na po ba?
Yes, bro.
So good afternoon. We will be presenting an update on our paper FedEx versus LBC's e-commerce products in the Philippines. So together with my group mates, Arsena Gerson Carl, Castro John Cedric, Malinis Jeremiah Ross, and me, John Ortonio. Palipat ako ng slide dun na agad sa Global Logistics here. And thank you. So global logistics area is the entire areas, networks, and systems involved in the movement of goods and the services. So FedEx, known as one of the top grossing logistics players worldwide, operates in 220 plus countries and territories with major hubs in the North America, Europe, Asia Pacific, and the Middle East. So what makes FedEx stand out is not only the size of its network, but also how it connects differently, re- how it connects differently to regions strategically. Each hub is designed to link regional supply chains with global markets, which is essential for e-commerce. So the setup ensures that the business, even for smaller economies like the Philippines, can send products abroad with the same speed, reliability as larger corporations, which build trust in online transactions. So FedEx has a major facility in Clark Gateway, Philippines, which serves as a strategic hub for Asia Pacific. This enables faster e-commerce, trade, and SMEs market access. So the Clark Gateway plays a critical role in reducing reliance on heavily congested hubs such as Hong Kong. Its location allows FedEx to move across Asia Pacific more quickly and with fewer risks of delay. At the same time, it elevates the Philippines' role in regional trade, turning the country into a key transit point in the global supply chain rather than just a consumer market. So this gives local businesses a faster and more reliable access to the international buyers. So lastly, FedEx has an overwhelming support to small, medium enterprises with custom processing, digital tools, and international reach. So SMEs enterprise often face challenges in shipping abroad, especially with pro- custom procedures, and delivery reliability. So FedEx simplifies this through digital tools that handle documentation, provide real-time shipment visibility, and streamline delivery options. So by removing these barriers, SMEs in the Philippines can expand to international markets and sell with the same logistical efficiency as larger firms. So this directly strengthens the country's e-commerce sectors and global competitiveness. So next.
Thank you, John, for uh, introducing to us the global logistics area. Now proceeding to the assessment of logistics systems of FedEx. FedEx runs on an end-to-end integration model, meaning it can handle shipments seamlessly across air, sea, and ground. This reduces its dependence on external carriers and ensures greater reliability, especially for international trade. Its Clark Getaway Hub in Pampanga plays a strategic role. It's highly automated, digitally integrated, and built to accelerate cross-border shipments. FedEx even pilots technologies like AI-driven sorters to streamline parcel handling. But here's the gap. While FedEx is strongly globally, it is weak locally. Its limited domestic last mile coverage forces it to depend on local partners in provincial areas. This often leads to higher delivery costs and lower service compared to homegrown couriers. Another gap is the high level of standardization across its global operations, which makes its services more expensive for cost-sensitive SMEs. And when we factor in customs and regulatory delays in the Philippines, FedEx's promises of speed and reliability doesn't always translate well in practice. So the system is highly advanced internationally, but less competitive in rural and everyday domestic logistics. Also, to add to this, the example of centralized hubs with automation and AI-driven tech like the door sorter, this hasn't been implemented in the Philippines yet, but it has been implemented in different advanced countries like Japan. Although if this Dora sorter is implemented already here in the Philippines, this would highly increase the technology as well as the delivery and the time that it takes when the logistics systems will be handled. Now, moving on to the LBC, which will be discussed by Gerson and Jan.
So let's proceed to the LBC Express. And first is we have for the global logistic air sides, which the company stands as the largest courier service that we all know provider in the Philippines. So making it an essential player in both local and international trade. So its services are especially significant for OFW's workers as it has become the trusted channel for sending balikbayan boxes, which carry not just goods but also symbolize family connection and cultural ties. Beyond OFWs, the courier also supports the rapidly growing e-commerce sector, like helping online sellers and businesses reach customers across the country and abroad. So to achieve this, the company operates through a multimodal transport system which combines air, sea, and land freight. So this allows them to handle bulk shipments internationally through sea freight, ensures faster cross-border movement via air, and connect goods domestically through an extensive hub and spoke network that links central warehouses through provincial branches. So the most important part is we have a what further strengthen to their service is the integration of cash on delivery, which we all known called, and cash on pickup options. So since many Filipino consumers still prefer paying in cash, so these services build trust and accessibility, bridging the gap between online transactions and customer convenience. So this alignment with local consumer behavior has allowed the company to sustain its leadership in the logistic market side while adapting to the evolving needs of the modern trade. So let's proceed to the assessment of logistic systems.
So for the assessment of the logistic systems of the LBC Express, it has a nationwide coverage of 1,500 branches and more than 200 hubs and warehouses. This network does not just serve as drop-off and pick-up points for customers, but also acts as distribution nodes, which makes parcel sorting and delivery much faster and more efficient, especially in rural areas which are outside of major urban centers. This wide coverage gives LBC a competitive advantage over smaller players in the courier, express, and parcel market. Next is it has a strong last mile delivery, COD, and digital booking systems. A key strength in LBC is their strong last mile delivery system. By combining its branch network with third party contractors, LBC can reduce operational strain and um, ensure timely deliveries across different regions. Furthermore, LBC supports both cash on delivery and digital payment systems. COD cash on delivery remains relevant in the Philippines due to its accessibility and trust issues with digital banking or simply because of preference of the client or consumer while digital payment continues to grow. So according to the Bangko Sentral ng Pilipinas, up to 59% of retail payments in 2024 are done digitally. So even though there are a growth in the digital payment, there are still a large amount of people who prefer to pay in cash. This makes LBC adaptable to diverse customer preferences giving them an edge in an expanding e-commerce market. However, there are also weaknesses of the LBC Express. So one is that it relies heavy on third-party carriers for air and sea and freight. There are some traffic congestion and infrastructure challenges, which also impacts their scalability. So for the heavy reliance on third-party carriers for air, sea, and freight, this allows them to expand, reach, and this reduces their control over service quality, timing, and their scalability. This means that any disruption with these carriers can directly impact the LBC's delivery reliability. Moreover, the traffic congestion and infrastructure challenges remain a major obstacles even now. And according to the Private Express and Messenger Association of the Philippines, or PEMAP, the industry loses 43.47 billion annually due to the congestion, with riders losing about 18.75% of their productivity daily because of the time lost due to traffic. Poor infrastructure in rural areas further complicates the last mile delivery services, limiting the efficiency of LBC's otherwise extensive network. That would be all for the assessment of the logistics systems. Thank you.
Now, moving on to the comparative perspective, when we place both companies side by side, their differences and their gaps become more clearer. FedEx excels in global reach, technology, and cross-border trade, but its domestic last-mile presence is limited, and its services are costlier, making it less attractive for smaller local sellers. LBC, meanwhile, dominates the domestic market with extensive last-mile coverage and COD services. But it has a weaker international footprint and is highly dependent on third-party carriers. In other words, FedEx can take a Philippine seller from Manila to New York, but may struggle to take them from Manila to a rural province. Let's say, for example, my province in Cagayan Valley. LBC, on the other hand, can bring your package to the farthest barangay, but struggles to move it beyond Philippine shores with the same efficiency. These gaps highlight that neither company alone fully answers the needs of the Philippine e-commerce market. The reality is, global integrators like FedEx and domestic leaders like LBC complement each other. One provides international growth opportunities, while the other ensures nationwide penetration. This comparison ultimately shows us that in logistics, the gaps matter just as much as the strengths, because they reveal where opportunities lie for innovation, collaboration, or even policy support. That is all for our presentation. Thank you for listening.
Okay, Group 2, thank you for your presentation. Group 3, for your questions.
Okay, ako na lang po mauna. So, for this sa yung mentioned yung last mile delivery ng FedEx and ng LBC. So, I wanna know, paano nagdi-differ yung last mile delivery strategies nung dalawa, especially in remote or hard to reach areas?
Hello. Rinig po ba ako?
Yes, you're audible.
Okay pa. Thank you, sir. So, I don't know po for FedEx muna because, but for LBC, yung for the last mile delivery, they could use the branches. So that would mean like perhaps from a warehouse from Manila, they would be transferred to various different branches. And then until sa last branch, kung saan merong kung saan yung last branch kung saan malapit yung location for delivery. And doon po yung making last mile delivery. So perhaps they're a third-party contractor na magde-delivery doon to the house mismo nung client, or perhaps pwede rin naman po i-pick up doon nung client sa branch na yun. Ayun po for LBC.
And for ano naman, for FedEx, thank you, Jan. Since yun nga, FedEx its strength is more in international shipping. When it comes to hard to reach areas like yung mga provinces nga, FedEx often relies on partner couriers. Hindi lang na-mention sa presentation kanina, but it's in the paper. Such as yun nga, To Go, SM Business Centers, and Alphamart stores. And itong mga outsourcing, it helps them cover more ground kasi 'di ba nga mas na-reach nitong mga local tawag ito, local parts or businesses yung mga rural areas. And because of this, yung hindi nga siya competitive for rural advancements or rural areas, but this is how FedEx uh, goes with their this is how FedEx actually deals with their rural deliveries.
Okay, thank you for your answer. That's all po.
May question din ako. Yung LBC po ba nag-offer ng multi-modes of transport like air, sea?
For LBC po, they rely more on, for international parang mode of transport, they rely more on their partnership with other organizations. So, hindi po to nasa presentation, but it is in the technical paper din naman. But for example, for the air transport, they rely on Philippine Airlines and things like that po. Sorry, pero it is also true for the sea transport din, but I forgot po kung anong organization doon. Sorry. But ayun po, they rely on other organization for that.
Add ko lang din kay Jan, yung sa Sea Freight nga, yung company na yun is To Go Freight and Asian Marine Transport Corporation. Tapos for land transport naman, nagko-combine sila ng mga trucking fleet with third-party contractors. So yes, to answer your question, they offer multimodal transport as well.
Hello. Hello, so yung question ko lang is what is the major difference between FedEx and LBC's logistics network?
Pa-repeat po, is it a major key difference of their logistics network? Tama po ba?
Yes po. Major
Uh,
difference between FedEx and LBC's logistics network po.
okay, ayun. Regarding sa paper namin, FedEx runs nga a globally integrated logistics network, and it is centered on automated hubs and direct control rather over air-ground operations. Yun nga, since they are more focused internationally. While LBC naman, since domestically rooted siya, may mga branch and hub network naman siya that depends heavily on third-party carriers para ma-reach nila yung iba't ibang parts ng Philippines, since Philippines has a complex archipelago. So I hope it answers your question.
Yes, thank you po.
Okay, last group.
Okay, so let's start. So good day, everyone. We are Group 3. I am Jana Idos, and together with my group mates, Angeline Grande and Gabby Reyes, we'll be sharing our comparative assessment of two logistical providers, To Go here in the Philippines and DHL, a global leader in logistics. Our goal here is to see how their supply chain structures, logistics systems, and infrastructures shape the way they deliver services. By comparing a local and a multinational company, we'll uncover both the differences and what lessons we can take from each of them. So, next slide, please. Okay, so to guide our analysis, we looked at three dimensions, which is their supply chain structures, their logistic systems, and their infrastructures. Then we assess these dimensions using five comparative lenses, which we mentioned in the first technical report, which includes network design, transport modes, operational tools and technology, cost versus service orientation, and resilience. This framework helps us see not only what each company does, but also why those choices make sense given their environment and goals. Next slide. So let's begin first with network design, which refers to how a supply chain is physically structured, like its hubs, ports, and routes. DHL runs a global system built on super hubs that connect different regions of the world. It invests in redundancy, which means they have lots of alternative hubs and routes, so it can ensure reliability no matter what happens in one area. So meanwhile, Tugo's design is shaped by the Philippines being an archipelago. It connects Luzon, Visayas, and Mindanao through sea transport and uses road delivery for the last mile. The challenge is that its network has fewer redundancy and relies heavily on port schedules and sea routes. So while DHL structure gives it global reliability, Tugo's structure prioritizes domestic coverage but faces more constraints.
So, as we go on to transport modes or the logistics systems each company relies on, we see a big contrast. So, DHL focuses on air freight, often combining it with ocean, road, and even rail to create multimodal solutions. This allows them to deliver fast and reliable service worldwide, perfect for urgent or high value shipment. On the other hand, Tugo's backbone is maritime shipping since doon nga po sila kilala sa Roro-Pax vessel, which is ideal for the Philippines island-to-island needs. So this is complemented by road transport for last mile delivery. The result is affordable, large volume shipments but slower transit times compared to DHL since ayun nga, they rely on sea freight, and DHL is DHL has multimodal transport. So here we see the key difference. So DHL delivers speed at a higher cost while Tugo delivers affordability at the cost of time. Next slide please. So when we say operational technology, the what I refer to is the software and machines that move and track goods. So things like warehouse management systems, Internet of Things, sensors, robotics for picking, and AI forecasting. DHL has invested heavily here. So one prime example is yung smart lighting sa isang facility nila. So so dito sila nag-invest sa mga sa mga AI and IoT technology. That technology lets DHL centralize high volume processing in its super hubs and still meet tight delivery windows. It's how their supply chain structure supports a time sensitive logistics system. While on the other hand, Tugo has taken a practical and targeted approach. They rolled out WMS and track and trace dashboards across major hubs, and even added an X-ray cargo scanner at Manila for faster air freight clearance. So, oh, I forgot to mention then. Tugo has an air freight has an air freight transport din since it is handled by Cebu Pacific naman. So, those tools improve visibility and throughput, but many port and yard operations still rely on manual work. In short, Tugo's infrastructure and tech reduce friction and improve service where they can, but they don't yet change the basic reality of a distributed C-dependent network.
So for cost versus service, this is the classic trade-off. Investment in automation and air capacity to buy speed, or lean on cheaper sea and road to keep prices down. DHL's investments translate into faster, more reliable services globally, and those come at a premium. You see this reflected in pricing strategies. For DHL, advanced infrastructure and air-rich multimodal systems are deliberately aligned with a premium service model. 2GO's model is the opposite side of that balance. Maritime backbone and the road last mile equals lower per ton cost and better coverage across islands. They added fees for difficult deliveries such as bulky items, remote islands. But overall, their infrastructure choices are optimized for affordability and coverage rather than express speed. So when you look at their logistics systems, the transport mode decision, sea versus air, and infrastructure spending explain their marketing position. For resilience is not only about having backups, it's also about how infrastructure and technology let you respond. DHL builds resilience proactively, diversified sourcing and routing, AI forecasting to anticipate demand shocks, and tech that allows rapid rerouting in a case of hub is affected. Their global network structure and automated hubs give them flexibility. If one route fails, traffic can be moved elsewhere with minimal service loss. 2GO's resilience is more local and reactive, and very important. In disaster context, for example, their large relief shipments during typhoon response, 2GO's fleet and local knowledge let them mobilize aid quickly, but their system is sea-heavy with fewer redundant hubs. They remain more vulnerable to vessel downtime, port congestion, or damaged routines.
So the important takeaway is investments in infrastructure and tech drive what kind of supply chain structure you can support and what logistics system you operate. So to wrap it up, this comparison shows us that logistics systems, supply chain structures, and infrastructures are not one size fits all. DHL leverages global scale, advanced technology, and premium service orientation to compete worldwide. Meanwhile, Tugo adapts to the Philippine geography, focusing on affordability, coverage, and disaster response. Together, they show us two very different but equally valid approaches to logistics. So that's all for our group. Thank you for listening.
So thank you, Group 3. Group 1, for your question.
Nabanggit nyo kanina na DHL is proactive in diversification and forecasting while yung Tugo is more active in disaster response. So parang how does this difference affect their performance during typhoons or may port disruptions?
Bale for DHL, ano siya, mas mas pinapakita niya na prevention is better than better than doing after the typhoon affected. The typhoons affects some cities. Then, ano, like yung AI forecasting, ayun yung nagsasabi na kapag magkakaroon ng global disruptions, pwede niyang i-reroute yung goods sa ibang hubs para hindi siya maapektuhan and minimal lang yung magkakaroon and minimal risk lang yung mangyari. Tapos, yung sa 2GO naman, ano siya, more on gagalaw lang siya if nangyari na or naapektuhan na yung isang city. Like, di ba, dun sa kanina, naapektuhan na yung isang city, then dun lang sila nag-send ng mga relief goods. Ayan lang po.
Okay, to add to that lang. So, Tugo is more directly exposed in the first place since it depends nga sa sea route since mostly yung mga vessels niya are ships. So when a typhoon hits, voyages are usually suspended for safety. So Tugo plays a key role in disaster relief logistics like we mentioned kanina. So sila yung mga nagde-deliver ng emergency supplies once it's safe already. But DHL, being more on air sila, they can reroute flights through alternative gateways if one airport is not available. Kasi di ba they use AI forecasting to anticipate disruptions ahead of time. So, ganon. So, overall, DHL is like more proactive with forecasting and rerouting while Tugo is more reactive. Kasi parang sabi ni Angeline, gagalaw lang sila kapag parang safe na pagtapos na yung disaster. Ganon. Okay, that's all.
Okay, thank you.
Hello. For both na to, sa To-Go and sa DHL, parang curious lang ako since na-mention na leading logistics na yung both. Like, paano sila nagpa-play in naman sa e-commerce na business? Parang ano lang, overview lang.
Wait, so yung question is, paano yung e-commerce ng two companies? Tama ba?
Yes.
So for e-commerce, like, sa DHL, they have like a strong e-commerce focus, especially for like cross-border shipping. Like, parang they're more advertised if you want premium and fast delivery, but at a higher cost. So their global air network makes them ideal for online sellers who need fast and international fulfillment basically. But Pag Tugo, it serves more the domestic e-commerce market nga. So, nilaleverage nila yung sea and road networks nila to reach even yung remote islands, similar dun sa LBC na dun sa previous group, which is valuable for Philippine-based sellers. So, DHL basically dominates yung international e-commerce logistics, pero si Tugo, stronger siya in domestic online retail.
Thank you.
Reyes, you may add.
Can I add lang? So, nabasa ko to sa Tugo Logistics also partnered with Lazada. So, one of the largest e-commerce platforms to handle nationwide fulfillment and last mile delivery. So, ayun nga. Maganda rin ang last mile delivery performance ng Tugo when it comes to e-commerce. So, malaking tulong to this helped Lazada improve coverage in sa mga hard to reach provinces. But although there are exposed issues of Tugos in lead times and tracking updates, as noted by many online sellers. Now, for DHL, they also partner with yung sa mga Zalora, uh, which is a leading fashion e-commerce platform in Southeast Asia that provides cross-border shipping and express delivery for international orders. So, through DHL's global network, Zalora can quickly deliver products from overseas warehouse to customers in the Philippines within a few days. So, etong partnership na to, this highlights DHL's strength in international e-commerce, especially for retailers needing fast and reliable cross-border fulfillment. So, in in short lang, DHL performs better in international e-commerce platforms compared to Go.
Okay, I think that ends the presentation. So thank you for your presentation and good job. So I'll be meeting you on Wednesday. So see you all on Wednesday and keep safe. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you
Thank
Bye,
po.
you.
sir. Thank you po.
Okay, bye.